Hello and a warm welcome to you in Lagos. I'm Millicent Walker. First, we begin with Russian President Vladimir Putin today paying his last respects to Mikhail Gorbachev, laying flowers at the open coffin of the last leader of the Soviet Union who died on Tuesday, aged 91. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that Putin will not attend the funeral ceremony for Gorbachev on Saturday, September the 3rd, due to the schedule constraints. Mr. Peskov added that Gorbachev's funeral would have elements of a state funeral, including a guard of honor, and that the Russian state was helping with the organization of the event. And to mainstream Russia's invasion of Ukraine, despite reports of intense shellings, the International Atomic Energy Agency mission is concerned about the Russian-held nuclear power plant, which sits in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhzhia. The team arrived at the atomic plant today to assess the risk of disaster. Here's more in this report.
A team of UN experts arrive at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia atomic plant complex today to assess the risk of a radiation disaster after being delayed several hours by shelling near the site. Conditions at the nuclear plant, Europe's largest, have been unraveling for weeks, with Moscow and Kiev regularly trading blame for shelling in the vicinity and fueling fears of a Chernobyl-style radiation disaster. The IAEA team arrived in a large convoy with a heavy presence of Russian soldiers nearby. A Ukrainian source with knowledge of the situation says the mission may turn out to be shorter than was planned. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi says the mission was aware of the high risk the increased military activity in the area between Ukrainian and Russian defense lines posed, but was pressing ahead with its plan to visit the facility and meet its staff.
We are moving. We are aware of the current situation. There has been increased military activity, including this morning. Until very recently, a few minutes ago, I have been briefed by the Ukrainian regional military commander here about that and the inherent risks. But weighing the pros and cons and having come so far, we are not stopping. We are moving now. We know that there is an area, as you know, the so-called gray zone, where the last line of the Ukrainian defense comes, and before the first line of the Russian occupying forces begin, where the risks are significant. At the same time, we consider that we have the minimum conditions to move, accepting that the risks are very, very high. Still, myself and the team, we believe that we can proceed with this. We have a very important mission to accomplish. As you know, we are going to start immediately an assessment of the security and the safety situation at the plant as it is right now. We are going to be liaising and consulting with the staff at the facility. And I am going to consider the possibility of establishing a continued presence of the IAEA at the plant, which we believe it's indispensable to stabilize the situation and to get regular, reliable, impartial, neutral updates of what the situation is there. So wish us luck. We are moving now. Thank you for your interest. It's very important that the world knows what's happening here. Thank you very much.
Ukraine's energy minister, German Galushenko, says the IAEA mission to the Russian-held Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant was a step towards deoccupying and demilitarizing the site. Speaking in the Ukrainian-controlled city of Zaporizhzhia, only 55 kilometers away from the plant, Galushenko says it was crucial for the mission headed by Rafael Grossi to be allowed to speak to staff at the site.
That is really very important. Also very important goal is from our views is that the mission could speak to the personnel, to the staff, could get the real information, not Russian information, but get the real information what is inside. First of all, but what is really very important that we need to check the situation on the NPP, because We have now the soldiers there. We have the heavy vehicles there. So we need to check what is really, from the point of view of nuclear safety and security. That's the first goal.
Russia and Ukraine earlier accused each other of trying to sabotage the mission of the International Atomic Energy Agency to the plant in southern central Ukraine, which is controlled by Russian forces but operated by Ukrainian staff. The IAEA inspectors, armored land cruisers with UN markings on their sides, had been held at the first checkpoint outside the city following the shelling reports.
Meanwhile, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that Russia was doing everything to ensure that Ukraine does Zaporizhia's nuclear plant could operate safely, and for visiting inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency to be able to complete their tasks. He was speaking at an event in Moscow. The Zaporizhia nuclear plant was captured by Russian forces in March. It remains near the front lines. Or elsewhere, let's take a look at video footage which was released today showing a large explosion in Ukraine's southern town of Enahoda, about 5.5 kilometers from the reactors of the Zaporizhia region's nuclear power plant. Local news verified the location of the video from the buildings and structures as matched in far imagery, but was unable to independently verify the date that it was shot. The footage comes as a team of UN experts planned a safety inspection to the nuclear power plant. Well, elsewhere, the Ukrainian military has said that it launched a long-awaited counteroffensive to take back territory from Russian forces in its south. Bolstered by weaponry supplied by the West, Moscow acknowledged the offensive by Ukraine near the city of Kherson, but also said it had failed and that Ukrainians had suffered significant casualties. Meanwhile, Russian shells bombarded the southern port city of Mykolaiv. The city's mayor said that homes had been hit and at least 2 people killed. VOA's Anna Chernikova joins me now from Kyiv. Good to see you, Anna. First, talk to us about the mood in Kyiv after the news of the death of Mikhail Gorbachev.
Good evening. Well, to be honest, it's quite, quite neutral in Ukraine. I mean, it was no that much attention to this event, to this, to this happening. I mean, for a lot of Ukrainians, especially the generations that was already born when USSR collapsed, this personality was, so of course everyone knows about him, but it was something like, well, people didn't really follow his life, and people, some young people even, were not sure if he's still alive or not. But for people who actually who were living in the USSR and remember these times, of course, for them, I mean, I cannot say that it's much more difference. I mean, it's kind of indifferent. So he died, but of course, for people, it's something like, a little symbolism probably that the final person who actually was ahead of the USSR, well, died and is not alive anymore. And of course, for Ukrainians who remember the time of Chernobyl tragedy, this person would probably always be in their memory as a person who heeded this event from people and who didn't, make anything to make people safe and safer at least. And this person actually made people go to outside on the celebrations on the 1st of May when the radiation was very high and he was pretty much under danger. So it was a controversial personality for Ukraine, especially. But a lot of people also who remember that times, they say that he was the one who made it, faster that USSR collapsed, even though he didn't probably plan it, but his actions actually led to this collapse, made this collapse faster. So this is basically what I can, tell from hearing from what people say. But in general, it's kind of, it's not that big deal in Ukraine, this event.
And Anna, let's talk about South Ukraine, Zaporizhzhia. UN inspectors are visiting, yet we understand that shelling, or is it fighting, is still ongoing. Are both sides still accusing each other of the shelling?
Well, yeah, all eyes today actually are on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and on the International Atomic Energy Agency mission. We know and we hear from the intelligence, from the Ukrainian intelligence in particular, that since 5 o'clock in the morning today, the city of Enerhodar was actually under a very heavy fighting, a very heavy shelling, sorry. And also Zaporizhzhia region in general, and Zaporizhzhia city in particular, because I mean, this region is pretty much under very heavy shelling for quite a long time now. And of course, today, when mission was on their way to the nuclear power plant, it was even, you know, it was, of course, more important in terms of the fact that actually the mission was also under a risk, because and we hear information that Russian forces were shelling the Enerhodar city itself because of the direction of the shelling. So this is what could be what was reported again by the military officials. Also, the fact that Russian forces were using helicopters for the shelling was also confirmed. The mission left Zaporizhzhia today, and they were on their way to the nuclear power plant. They had to stop at the Ukrainian control checkpoint, which is 20 kilometers away from the nuclear power plant, due to the shelling. So they were waiting for the shelling to stop because it was too risky to continue their trip. And after some time, they managed to actually get to the plant. So this is what we were hearing since the very early in the morning, and then finally, when mission arrived, it was some couple of hours of waiting, and now we know that the head of the delegation, the agency's chief, has already left the plant with most of the colleagues, of the representatives of the mission, of the members of the mission. We know that five representatives of the mission remain at the Zaporizhzhia power plant, and they are planning to stay there until the 3rd of September. They will continue to do certain works on the site. We don't know for the moment details on what is the status of the power plant, what is the condition of the reactors, and what is going on inside. And we don't know what exactly the mission is going to do there. But well, hopefully we will get some more details from the agency's chief, Mr. Grossi, soon. Or at least this is what everyone is waiting for. Also, Mr. Grossi said that a lot of work has been done in the couple of hours of their presence at the site, and he said that some key aspects that he wanted to see, he saw. So again, we're waiting for more details from him.
And, you know, a lot of people hope that, you know, the shelling doesn't continue, and so that they can do their work in some sort of peace in that area. But talk to us about Ukrainian forces claiming the military strike in 3 areas of the Russian-occupied region of Kherson. They're saying after Kyiv launched a new push to retake the territory in its south. How much do we know of the successes there?
We don't have much information, much details. Again, Ukrainian officials and military officials in particular continue to report that you know, more details would come after these counteroffensive actions are done, because due to the security reasons, of course, and due to the military planning. But what we know is that Ukrainian forces continue quite active shelling of the Russian positions, and some successful attacks have been reported by the Ukrainian armed forces. For instance, today Ukrainian forces hit the Novakhovka breach again. This is also a very important breach for Russian for Russian logistics. And now, so basically, Ukrainian forces keep this bridge under the fire to enable Russian forces bring more equipment in. Also, the Panton crossing was damaged, was destroyed a couple of days ago, and today Ukrainian forces reported that thanks to this heat of the bridge, they prevented Russian forces to build another Panton crossing. Also, we received confirmation that in that area, over 200 Russian soldiers were killed in the past day, and also a lot of equipment and weapons were destroyed. Again, we don't have, we cannot, first of all, we cannot independently verify this, but this is official reports from the Ukrainian armed forces. And also we cannot get more details due to the fact that this is not allowed due to, military strategy.
And Anna, we heard that the second largest city, Kharkiv, was shelled overnight. What's happening there?
The city of Kharkiv, unfortunately, is suffering very much at this time. And in the past couple of weeks, we hear more reports about the shelling of the central parts of the city, because since the beginning of this war, more than 6 months ago, the city of Kharkiv was one of the cities which is very close to the front line, and from one side, and from other side very close to the Russian border. So Russian forces have chance to shell Kharkiv from the territory of Russia, and this is quite a big problem for the city. But when Russian forces shell from their own territory, they only can reach certain areas. It's more difficult for them to reach central parts of the city of Kharkiv. At least they need to use different kind of weapons, more like longer range weapons. So, but now we're hearing more and more about the shelling of the central parts, and in particularly central residential areas. We hear reports about casualties, we hear reports about a lot of damages, but again, this is something that unfortunately didn't really stop, but I can say that in terms of Kharkiv, probably the areas, there are basically new areas that Russian forces are targeting, and unfortunately mostly residential areas.
Anna Chernikova joining us from Kyiv in Ukraine. Many thanks, and continue to stay safe.
Thank you.
Staying in Ukraine, pupils took textbooks home from their bombed-out school in Mykolaiv as most education facilities in the region remain closed amid safety risks. The pupils of Mykolaiv school number 15 will not attend in-person lessons in their classrooms when the country's schooling system begins. As air raid sirens sounded in the background, a fifth-grade student wished for the war to end so that she could go to school as she used to before. When deputy head of school entered a classroom with boarded-up windows, she said her heart was broken. Nearly 2,300 educational institutions were shelled or bombed since the Russian invasion began February 24, and 286 were completely destroyed, according to Ukraine's Ministry of Education and Science.